All right, so the next thing that I want to talk about is what we use to investigate your case, specifically the tools we use. Some of these you're going to have access to. Many of them you're not going to have access to for a variety of reasons, unless you are in the legal field or working in law enforcement. The ones you're going to have access to is we do basic Google searches. We do basic social media searches. We do things like that because we want to see what they've posted about. We want to see what publicly available information there is right off the bat. Because we found a lot of good information just Googling a person's name. It's kind of interesting. Many of the bad things about a person will pop up at the top of those results, and that's why we do that. You're going to have access to that information. Something else you're going to have access to if you paid for it is an investigator. And in some cases, we will pay an investigator to go out and investigate a person. That could be tracking them down, it could be taking photographs of them, it could be even interviewing them if they don't have an attorney. That's something that, again, you would have access to if you wanted to pay for them. Some tools that you're not going to have access to are things like softwares like Lexis Smart Links. That's something that gives us a lot of publicly available information all in one place. It's linked together, that's why it's called Smart Links. It's a very effective tool. Something very similar that's more detailed that we have access to is a program called Tracers. And that's a really valuable tool when it comes to tracking a person down. It gives us a lot of information that you or the general public are not going to have access to. It's a fantastic tool. We also look at court records. Court records are great. There's a program called Trellis. Trellis can canvass all of the court records across the country, aside from a few different jurisdictions. It's a pretty interesting tool. These are things that we pay for. When it comes to Smart Links and when it comes to Tracers, also another program called Regis, which I'll get to in a second. All of these we have to be approved for, and they even come out to our offices, they take photographs, they look at our computers, they limit who has access to them. It's a very in-depth process. Only certain people are able to use it. It's very limited. These are things that the reason why they go through this is because they don't want the general public to have access to a lot of this information, and that's why we have access to it. But they're very useful because we are able to piece all of this information together to track down defendants, to find out information about the defendants. I'm going to give you just a prime example of a bit of information other than tracking down a defendant that is fairly useful, because I had a case one time where they had a defense attorney and they wouldn't give us the insurance information, and they kept saying there's no insurance applicable to this case. We knew that was a lie. I was able to pull up the mortgage for the house, and if you have a mortgage, you probably know that you have to have insurance to have a mortgage. A mortgage company is going to require you to have that. We were able to track that information down, show that to the judge, and the judge was not very happy with them and forced them to give us that information. But that's just one example of something that we're able to get using these softwares and piecing it together. The program that I mentioned, Regis, that is usually just specific to the state of Missouri, but we are able to get items that are outside the state of Missouri, like criminal histories. We're able to get criminal histories for 48 states out of 50, so that is something that's helpful. But frankly, we don't necessarily need it for that because we can get that from programs like Smart Links or from Tracers. We are able to get in-depth driving records, driving histories, information about license plates from Regis, which makes it extremely helpful. So those are some of the tools that we use to investigate your case, in addition to the obvious ones that the information that you have access to that we already mentioned before. Hopefully this helps explain some of that to you, and if you think of something about your case that you think, hey, maybe they can find this on one of these programs that Tyson mentioned, bring it up to us. Sometimes there are items that we don't think of that clients think of. We'd love to hear it, so make sure you let us know if that is the case. As always, if you have any questions about your case, just call us 888-550-4026. You can text in, email, whatever is easiest for you. All right, take care.